Here we go again. Welcome to the Inner Compass podcast. I'm Scott Kidd and co-host Eddie Austin. How you doing today, Eddie?
Man, I'm excited, dude. This is what, episode number 25, is it?
I think it's
Like,
26 or 25.
I think it's 25, man.
I think
I
it's
think it
25.
is.
All right. Well, this is a great topic.
We'll edit or cut that part out, but I'm pretty sure, man, we're here at episode number 25. And
Yeah.
yet this has been just so good. I mean, just so good. And we're posting these shorts on our social media. And dude, I just watched your YouTube channel. Of course, you got other things going on your YouTube channel, but dude, it's taken off. Like, this has really been impactful. And why am I excited about that? Like, why am I excited to see something take off? Well, it's because we went through some failures, right?
Yeah.
Like, we went with years without any views, without anything.
Yeah.
Now to see things take off a little bit, it's like we've learned something.
Yeah.
And I know that's what is the episode about today is really about learning, right? Learning from
failures. Yeah, learning from our failures. And I got it from I'm rereading this book here, A Changed Mind by David Bayer, and I sent it to you earlier in the week because it really hit me, because when it came to these four blessings, the four blessings of failure. And if you don't have a chance to check out David Bayer, you really should, anybody that's listening, because he's just got some simple tricks and simple things that you can do to help yourself. And I know it's given me a lot of self-reflection and guidance and stuff, but the four blessings of failure, you don't think of failure as that's the end all. It's not over. That's kind of just the beginning. It's basically the first step in rising up. And the four of them are the first failure is learning, the second is reflection, the third is redirection, and the fourth is the setup. Because when we really look at it, it's there's no shame in it. There's you shouldn't really have any fear of it. It's a part of the success. Without it, without the failure, we don't have the success. We need to go through those things to get to that.
Yeah, I was just talking. It's kind of funny you're saying it like this because I had an opportunity, which I don't know about you, but I've got a mentor that's been a great mentor to my life, especially in business and all the things I do. And this is the exact conversation coming back from lunch I was having with him as he said, success teaches us nothing. And that's so true. He's like, you don't truly learn anything until you're at rock bottom. And that's when you start to learn. I think that's when you realize pride and ego is probably not going to help you scratch your way out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no other way but up. And that's where you really learn your lessons. If you're humble enough to physically learn the lesson of how you got to that point, and maybe it wasn't totally your fault why you got to rock bottom, but I feel like that is where your failures you'll start to learn from, when you inject humility and you accept, hey man, here we are. How are we going to get our way out? And like, how is the conversation that we're having here today, how does that guide us through these 4 points, these four blessings? And I will say, I've definitely had some things happen where I can relate to every one of these four blessings.
Yeah, I really can. Also, because in the book he also said it was a part of the quote was by Gary Keller. It said every human being is destined to fail, but also born to get back up. It's in our design for us to get back up, and it's not, the failure doesn't really matter, because it's how we get back up and what we do after. We're created to try and fail and try again and try again, and it helps us become the best version of who we are. I mean, when you get to the first one, it's definitely, failure is learning. Because like you just said, you don't learn from success. You might learn how that is because maybe you never had a taste of it. But I bet, and I know this is probably true with you as well, as you ask your mentor, or you ask all these other really successful people, hey, what's the biggest thing that ever happened to you? They're probably going to talk about a failure where they learned something, because every mistake or misstep exposes the gap between who you are and who you're becoming and who you need to be,
Yeah, of course. I can personally, reading through some of the things that you'd sent, one of the biggest thing, reflection turns the pain into wisdom. And it really does, because there's definitely been things that like had to be a huge pain point to me, to where I started turning that into wisdom. And until I felt that much pain from being in the situation, like I wasn't willing to accept fault. I wasn't willing to reflect on the things that really hit hard. And I had to ask myself, at what part was in my control? What needs to change? And who do I need to become so this doesn't happen anymore?
Yeah, without all that, you're just going to repeat, but with the reflection, you will evolve, you will grow, you will be that person. And a
Yes.
lot of times we don't know who we need to be to get past that, because we might not have, we thought something might have been, was going to be easier than we thought, or maybe it turned out a lot differently than we thought it should have been, which brings me into the next blessing, which failure is redirection. Because a lot of times the direction we think we're going in, that we think we need to have this is our next big thing, this is what happens, and it crashes and burns really heavily. It puts you into another space that you didn't even think of. And I know for myself, when I lost my tech business with my partner, got laid off from the tech world and stuff, I thought it was a pretty bad year, but it did end up to where I ended up getting on the yachts shortly thereafter, in that year, within that year. So that was a redirection that of where I needed to be. Without all that, I wouldn't have my wife, wouldn't have my kids. Wouldn't be here talking to my friend Eddie Austin. I
No,
wouldn't be doing real estate. I wouldn't. All these things wouldn't have happened. But it was a big blessing for me, because that wasn't where I needed to be. You know.
absolutely. And, I think the second thing you said was failure is reflection. And when things break, they force you to like pause. And that pause creates a space for us to like reveal the truth, like what really the truth is about all of these things.
Yeah, I mean, when we actually really look at the reflection of it, it reveals. It's very revealing of who we need to be, because if we take a hard look at that failure, it really causes us. If we want to learn from it, we could just quit at that moment. But most of us, I know the two of us, there's no quit there. So
No,
we're gonna keep going. Once we see that, we go, okay, all right, this is who I need to be. That Scott kid, he's done. We're going in this direction now. We're doing this because that's who Scott kid needs to be. So it really is, it's not a closed door or a punishment. It's actually probably another door opening that we didn't know existed.
that's so true, man. And I got to say, reflection, you know, like I said, it kind of turns pain into wisdom. And another thing is, it's like when I think back of all the different things that's happened in life, all of it's a reflection moment. And I look at the winning moments as that fed ego. And sometimes I've had so much winning that it actually contributed to a failure, because it seemed automatic. It seemed like, well, I can't lose. Like no
Mhm.
matter what I do, it just works. And that's when I got complacent.
Yeah, and when you're winning a lot, a lot of times when you do get that complacency, you start to overlook stuff because you think, oh, I got it. It's maybe it's a little too easy, but you're not using that same due diligence or that same scrutiny that you did to climb all the way up there, and through those struggles and everything, and then that will cause a failure at some point, because you think that everything is just going to keep running your way, and nothing lasts forever. It will keep going.
I want to interject something back to the top a minute. In one of the first parts, number one, failure is learning. Could this principle like be taken in context on like the gap and the gain?
Yeah, it definitely could be, because the gap of who you need to be, and of who you are and who you need to become, there's definitely a gap there. And once you bridge that gap, that's where the gain comes.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
Most
just thinking
definitely.
about that because there's this gap that's between, right? Like this
Yeah.
gap of where you are today and then the gain of where you need to go. Like that's that in the moment, like that's in the failure of that learning. I think that from the gap of things where you start to the gain of that line in between, that could be really a part of the learning process.
Yeah, and when you reflect back on that what you see as a failure, a lot of times you can see that direction that you need to be in. You're like, oh, and you see that person that you need to become. There's where the gain is, because it just gives you like, okay, that's who I need to be. That's what I need to do. And without you going through that gap there, you're never going to get to that gain.
Yeah, for sure. So what is number three then?
Number three is the redirection. It's when that new door opens that you never knew existed.
Man, I don't know about you, but
No,
does
go
it
ahead.
ever feel like there was a door nailed shut? You just keep yanking on the handle,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like you just keep going back. You're like, I'm gonna get this door open.
yeah. I'm gonna get a pry bar. I'm gonna get I'm gonna get a battering ram. I'm gonna get, you know, when all you really probably need to do is just turn to the right, and the other one just, it was open all along, and it was wide open,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
I think that not all doors closed are punishment. To be honest, I feel like I've caused a lot of my own punishment by yanking on the door that was like permanently nailed shut for a reason. Like, Eddie, that door has closed, man.
yeah,
Like, there's no reason to enter there anymore. It's time to turn the page. It's time to
yeah.
turn right and go through the next door.
Yeah, and I can compare this to some real estate stuff. There was some deals that looking back, I was like, man, I shouldn't have kept hammering on that door. I should have just said, okay, that wasn't the right one, and it took me too long, so I had to learn that lesson that, hey, I need to redirect maybe a little bit faster, and say that maybe there's a reason. Maybe take a step back and reflect and look and say, okay, there's a reason why this is nailed shut. This is not the path for me. So I should have done that, but had to learn that lesson. Had to learn that failure.
Life's a lesson, man. It is. It is. And I think I'm going to speak for both of us, many of our greatest blessings came from something that just didn't work out.
Yeah,
I mean, seriously, like the greatest blessings ever, like we talked about this on previous podcasts. Man, if that would have worked, I don't know if we'd have liked the outcome.
yeah. That's so true. And I remember looking back at that. There are a lot of things that I'm really glad that they didn't work out, because most definitely, like you just alluded to, that you and I would be completely different people.
Oh my gosh, ever. I mean, for sure. Like it makes me think of, very personal. It seems like there's been certain things that's happened in life that what you call rejection sometimes was like a God story. It was like the universe wanted us to be somewhere else. We weren't supposed to be there. Like life was saying, not here, not yet. You're not supposed to be here. And I tried to be there, like way
Mm-hmm.
too much. Like I tried to stay in that position and I outstayed the welcome of what the universe wanted.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that, because I just thought about this, and it's a story I hadn't thought about for a long time. I was in Jamaica, and I was at the yacht club down there, and I had this young lady with me, and I didn't have a car at that point, so I called my friend to come give us a ride, and we're about to walk out of the place, and I asked him real quick. I said, "Well, since you came all the way out here, you want to get a drink at the bar, and just kind of thank him for coming to get me and everything else." And it's one of those nights where we ended up shutting the place down or whatever. It's one of those days way back when. But then when we were driving back later, we drove. We were driving back to where she lived, and the house across the street had taken a bunch of they had kidnapped the people next door and stole a bunch of stuff, and they'd shot up everybody in the place, because Jamaica can be a pretty rough place. And it would have
Wow.
been the exact same time that we would have been driving up the hill when all the gunfire and everything was going off. So that was definitely a redirection. you know, there was a different plan for the man upstairs for me that day. It was
Yeah.
definitely a misguidance.
So, dude, like that really comes down to the redirection is how destiny guided you to the right path. Like
Yeah,
completely the right path. Like the destiny for you could have ended this way, but you redirected that. And man, sometimes like for me, there's been like callings like, hey, Eddie, don't leave yet. Or
yeah,
there was a bunch of things going on. And it's like, man, I don't understand why we couldn't be in the car, like leaving like 10 minutes
yeah,
earlier. And then suddenly you go to this intersection and you see this horrific car accident and
yeah.
you're like, whoa, if we would have left 10 minutes earlier,
It'd been
that could have
us.
been our car.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything happens for a reason.
It definitely does. It made me reflect on that. And I hadn't thought about that in a long time. It was kind of like one of those things like that there was, something said to me, "Hey, let's just grab a drink real quick." And then, and it wasn't out of any kind of thing, but it just goes to show you sometimes those small choices and those small redirections change the trajectory of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we have to probably look at this as some things are protection and some of it's just kind of course correction. Like, hey, I'm not saying you don't need to go to this destination, but maybe you need to take a detour. Like maybe
Yeah,
there's a reason that things ain't working on this path. Maybe it's just a little bit of a course correct. Like for you, I'm sure in the yacht world, I know for me in the flying world, like sometimes you have to go around some things. Like the straight path maybe is the fastest path, but it's not the safest path. Like we're going to go through some turbulence if we go this way. When you go a little bit this way, then back, and then over, there's a reason for it.
yeah. There most definitely is. It's not always that the obstacle is the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it can be. It can be. It can be.
Well, let's be honest. I don't know about you, but I'm going to speak for myself. I've become the obstacle sometimes. Like
Yeah.
I put myself in a position to where I became the biggest obstacle. And also I would say I risk things that I really couldn't afford to lose, but I did it anyway because that was the fastest path.
Yeah, I can honestly say that pretty much the major issues I've had in my life, I've I've been the obstacle. I am the obstacle. I was the
Yep.
obstacle. I was a huge obstacle.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
need.
wasn't, and it was obvious to everyone else, but it was a pain point for me.
Yeah. Well, how do you grab yourself and move yourself, right? Like,
Yeah,
how do you wrestle with your own self? And that's not easy. Like, I
no,
think one of the hardest things you have to do is like look in the mirror and go, huh, I'm the problem.
yeah.
Well, how do I get out of my own way?
Yeah, and that's one of those things where I had a business coach one time tell me that you always need to find out and it was a quick couple of sessions with him. He's like, you always need to find out where the bottleneck is, and you're going to be surprised because you think you're good at what you do and everything, but pretty much every time you're going to find that you're the bottleneck.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So let's see. Number 4, the failure is the setup. What does that mean?
Well, every setback plants a seed for your
Hmm.
comeback. And failure is not the opposite of success. It's just a part of the whole formula and part of the whole process. Because if you don't have that failure, you won't ever get to that person that is successful. You'll just keep grinding through all these things, and I know personally with me, I got used to a lot of different failures because I'm good at picking myself back up. I don't stay down for long, but
Mm.
I had a fear of success, and I didn't realize that the failure was a big part of the success. The next part was that I need to keep failing and keep pushing until I got there, rather than just, well, this is not working out. Well, this door's nailed shut, but I didn't know that in the corner there was a claw hammer where I could have pried that thing open.
Yeah. Man, this one kind of hits hard because recently I met with a mentor. I was searching for some advice on some things, and really like life advice all the way back to like I couldn't figure something out. And he identified with Eddie, I think the reason that you're doing the things you're doing is because it's tied back to all the way to your childhood. That your childhood, I wouldn't say trauma, but certain things in your childhood has caused you today to interject yourself in a way that's not necessary. So
Mm-hmm.
you said something that really made this click is nobody's going to get off the mat more time than me.
Mm-hmm.
But yet I seem to, because I realize that nobody's going to get off the mat more times than me. I also realize that when I'm against the ropes, don't count me out. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's when I'm most dangerous. But I don't need to get myself against the ropes just to prove myself all the time. I don't need to get knocked down all the time.
Yeah, that's I think that's was a similar thing for me is that I was used to being in the corner, so I put myself against the ropes or in the corner, so it would cause me to come out swinging. So I think that was, it's where it would bring you, where to be part of the formula, you can't keep putting yourself in that bad situation. You have to realize that that's done. That's a part of like repeating the same cycle. What you need to do is learn that to not put yourself in that again, and then keep going from there. And it's one of those things where champions aren't people who never failed; they just refuse to stay down. You know, what looks like a
That's right,
breakdown
man.
is often the setup for a breakthrough, because
Amen.
how many times have we done that?
Way too many. Way too many. So many times I can remember just when that was that dip, when it was that gap, like that was right before the breakthrough, the hardest moment. Like it's always the darkest before the sun rises
Yeah.
every time. Like that is the darkest moment is right before the sun rises, before it breaks the hill. And you just when you're in the shadows, man, like it's going to get dark. It's going to get the worst times. That's when the setup, like that is the breakthrough. And you have to realize there is a breakthrough, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there most definitely isn't, and you have to realize that, because we don't have any quit in us. A lot of times, people quit things a little too soon. Like I've heard, a lot of people said that they were looking for properties for a couple of years, and they were looking and looking, and then all of a sudden, in month number 25, they found four. And then they were just off to the races. If you had quit in year one or even at 2 years, it still would have been zero.
Well, you think about all the people that I look up to, and I know you do too. Some of these guys went through a long suffering moment, like much longer than what we're complaining about.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were eating out of trash cans for years. They were homeless for a period of time, like broke,
Mm-hmm.
sleeping on different couches, like all kinds of like super successful people. They went through some real suffering for a period of time, but they just
Yeah.
kept showing up because I think you said this earlier. Every human being is just born to fail, but they're also born to rise. And I think we are engineered for resilience. We're wired for growth. And the design becomes the best version of ourselves to experience and all the voids. And to try to avoid things is inevitable. Like it's going to happen. We can't avoid certain things because that's what helps us grow. We experience these things to expand. And if we didn't experience them, we wouldn't know. If we didn't feel the void, we wouldn't know how to expand.
Yeah, and because if we didn't have that learning moment, we didn't have that moment to reflect, we didn't have that redirection, and we didn't have that course correction, and we weren't set up to the next level, which was a success, whether how big or small it was. It's if you're in the season of where something's falling apart, it's good because chances are you need to learn something from that. We say this all the time, like why is this happening for me? Not why is this happening to me? Why is this happening for me? Okay, take a step back and go, where do I need to be for the next chapter to begin?
Absolutely. Yeah, failure is definitely not the end of the story. I would definitely recommend anybody that is looking at that thinking, man, what am I supposed to do with this? It's not the end. Like it's probably where the beginning, and there's a much better one that's about to happen.
Yeah, and most definitely. I mean, how many times have we done this and grown into the next thing? I mean, I just wanted to ask, if anybody that's listening, like, which one of these four blessings are the ones that resonate with you most? And, reach out to us and put it in the comments, or, say, tell your story, because we'd like to hear, because somebody else might need to hear that and learn from what you're going through. That way we can all help each other, you know, and if there's some certain setback that changed your life, but it ended up guiding you, giving you a guidance to something else, was it a blessing in disguise? Probably.
Yeah, man, put that in the comments. Like, let's reiterate for a moment. Like the four blessings here is learning, reflection, redirection, or the setup. And then, I would love to hear people's story in the chat. Like, put the story in the chat because, man, I'll tell you what, a lot of the times, like when we're dealing with certain things, like we're comparing our problems to the problems we're having in our life. But sometimes, like you hear about somebody else's problem that you're
Mm-hmm.
comparing your to, and you're like, I would easily trade my problem for what that's going. Whoa, man! Like
Yeah.
it's the guy that you're writing down your problem on a piece of paper and you're wadding it up and you're throwing it across the room. And the guy goes over and picks up his own paper and he's like, I'm just trying to pay my house payment.
Yeah.
And then you go pick up the other guy's paper and I got 2 weeks to live. And
Yeah.
it's like, dude, I'd want to trade my paper back.
Yeah.
So put that in the story like below.
Yeah, and we know from personal experience, because we both do journaling and try to help other people. Like, it might help you just to get that out there, because you might be holding that in, and maybe you didn't tell anybody. There's no judgments here. There's no, we've all been through stuff. We all battle our demons. We all, we always keep going because we want to come out on top. Because those none of those demons can beat us.
No, they cannot. Well, Scott, it's been an absolutely amazing episode. I think it's going to be very insightful for our listeners. I know for anyone listening, please, by all means, we can see that a lot of our listeners, they are not subscribed. And the only way that this content gets pushed out to more people and this can help more people is by being subscribed, liking it, sharing it. So the algorithm puts it more to the top. So that way more people get help. And that's why Scott and I are doing this is simply to help other people. And we count our blessings for every time somebody likes it, comments, and subscribes. So please do that for us. And Scott, where can everybody find you at, my friend?
Well, you can find me at investwithscottkid.com. It's all this podcast is there, the Yacht Captain Investor podcast, social media, and feel free to reach out if you guys need anything. Always glad to help. Always here to try to help people through what they need to get through.
Absolutely. So Eddie Austin BEX here. You can find all my stuff at EddieAustinBEX.com. And all my social media, other podcasts I've been on. And, I got to say, just be extraordinary. And Scott, I love your finishing line, man. Shoot it.
And as always, I'm Scott Kidd. Be clear, be grateful, and listen. Thank you all.